Welcome to episode 1 of the AMPS Studio podcast. My name is Craig Sheridan. I'm the senior engineer and music technology trainer at ampstudio.com. I'm also the skills support coach for givenhandsmusic.com. I'm with Sean McDonald, songwriter and music producer for Search Party and station manager at radioynp.com. Before the world changed, we engineered the recording and mixing sessions at AMPS Studio, and now we're removed from the studio space, but we've moved the recording and financials to our homes. So this podcast is for us music heads to catch up, share technique, exchange mixing tips, creative strategies, plugins, workflow, and all manner of tangents that entertain us and interest us to do with music production. This is the AMPS Studio podcast. Lovely. What is that, Mike?
It's a Shure SM7B.
Oh, lovely. Yes. Specifically for the radio, I'd imagine.
Yeah. So we ordered this a few years ago just for the purpose of the radio.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic mic, really good broadcast microphone. Like,
I'm still in a long-term relationship with my SM57 that has been at every DJ gig with me since, I don't know, maybe 10 years, 12 years.
Yeah. I gave my 58 a wee makeover the other day.
Right.
I ordered a new grill for it. You can see that. Like, just
fancy.
the rest of it's battered.
Yes.
But you want to see the old grill. Like, it is beat to death. So
mine has a very affectionate little dent in there. I like to think it's like a growing pain, like scars. I also like to tell people it's from having to defend myself at one point, but it's really not. So how are you getting on anyway?
Good, yeah. Life's been grand in lockdown. I haven't got too many complaints. Obviously adjusting to life and coming up with a new work schedule is strange, and it's a completely different environment, and a different mainframe to get into. But a few weeks in, and I think that I've sort of got the hang of things, and I'm happy enough with the way I'm managing. What about you?
It's funny because I was having this conversation with Elaine this morning too. We've come out the back end of being frustrated and angry and lost and panicked, and now we're kind of settling into, well, okay, we can still get all these sciences that we need, and we've found ways of working that makes things seem a bit more normal. At least we can do stuff, and we're still out walking, and it's becoming normal. I might even venture to say. So it was tough at the start, mind you. It was hard going, getting in touch with each other and trying to keep up with the responsibilities. But once you kind of surrender to the circumstance and realize that you can't be as productive as you once were and find new ways of working, then things completely change.
Yeah. And what do you think was, maybe the toughest thing to adjust to?
Getting in each other's way. So Elaine and I were used to being separate during the day. She would go to her workplace, I would go to my workplace, and we would do our work, and then we'd come home and we would discuss the frustrations and triumphs of our day, and then we'd get on with being in a relationship again. But now we would get up and then we would share childcare, and then we would share an office space, and we'd jump back and forth between how to work and where we could work, and the times that the Beth needed to sleep and the times that we needed to go out for walks, and just getting all that from scratch, essentially, just having, and there was no option for support. There was no daycare option, and we couldn't go and visit family, so everything was always on pressure. But after about 2 or 3 weeks of getting really frustrated with that, we kind of found a rhythm, and now things are much better. What about you? I was, obviously you're having to run the whole youth radio that show from that room you're in.
Yeah, and it can feel like a really small room one week, and it can feel like, a massive studio the next. I think that's the key of all this, is understanding that things are going to be a flux. A couple of weeks ago, I felt on top of the world in terms of the way things are going. Our listeners have been fantastic continuously, and we've been getting very good listenership, and our young people are becoming very engaged, I think, because of the momentum. And everything's very apparent and very visual to all the young people at the minute, because everyone has so much more time to post, to create, and to produce better content. Maybe not better quality, because we haven't got the luxury of the studio at the minute, but better content in the sense of more engaging, and they're sort of all honing their craft a bit better. So that momentum's getting young people really involved in the station, which is amazing and has really kept me on a high for a lot of weeks. But a few weeks ago there, I felt a big dip, and just I would have regular check-ins with the rest of the team, my sort of rank how we're feeling, just to make sure everybody's all staying good and stuff. And I was always ranking quite high and saying I'm feeling great each week, but a few weeks ago there, I just sort of dipped for no reason. Listening was still going well. I was still achieving a lot each week, but just for no apparent reason, just started having a different mood and feeling a bit worse off. And I think it's just understanding that that's going to happen, and it's not going to be for any particular reason. It's just we're in a weird situation, and every day is going to feel the same. And so just coming to terms with that, and knowing that you're going to come out of the end of that, feeling better as well in a few days' time.
One of the biggest breakthroughs, I suppose, for me was these kind of scenarios where you can reach out to people and where you can kind of contact other people and talk. And I suppose, obviously I have to take Beth out for a walk every day. So I'm doing like a circuit in the morning with her. And during that time, she maybe falls asleep after 10 or 15 minutes for a morning nap. And it gives me the opportunity, well, I'll go hands-free and I can talk to people. So I've actually got probably more actual conversations from people who have been at home, from people that I wanted to talk to than I did before, because everyone's often so busy anyway that you get a quick check-in and then you're away again. We've been having like 20 minute and a half hour. I actually had an hour long phone call the other day to a friend, and just having a kind of a similar chat to this where we're just discussing, well, what are we doing and what are you doing in lockdown and how are you getting on with it and what are you planning to do? And there's a few interesting things come out the back of that conversation. So I suppose that the current scenario has maybe made me approach, well, what am I trying to achieve from constantly being that busy when we're not in lockdown? And is it of benefit to be that busy, or is it, slowing down and being focused, maybe a bit more practical? But I suppose I have the luxury of time to consider that now.
That's it.
We have a big list of questions, stuff to talk through. Let me find those big list of questions. So let's see. Okay. So one of the things I would like to start doing as a podcast as this goes out, so that the video will go out, the audio will go out, and we'll upload it to all the podcast stations, and of course to youthradio.net. But we'd like to try and engage the people who are engaging the content as much as possible. So if you have any questions, or if anything you want to know, or any questions you want to ask Sean or I about how we do anything particular or any of the training in AMPS Studio, you can of course email Craig@ampstudio.com, or check us out on the Facebook page, which is Facebook.com/AMPS Studio, Facebook.com/AMPS Studio, of course. So one of the things that I suppose has come to mind is about how we're moving what we do training centre wise online. And one of the first things we're starting to do, obviously, is make it available for people to submit stems and tracks for us to mix, either remotely or at a distance. And to do that, though, I suppose it's a good idea to try and give people some ideas about how to be creative or how to be productive during the lockdown scenario. So this first podcast is going to be about, well, what we're doing to stay creative and what we're doing from home. So what have you been doing? Because just to give Sean a bit of background about Sean, Sean is of course the songwriter and music producer and recording engineer and mixing engineer for Search Party. Is that correct?
Yeah. And you're a bus driver, and and so
I'm roadie,
no, but
tour manager.
Yeah, so keep myself busy.
So the whole idea with that is, as a creative person, one of the things that I seen the other day was the Search Party video that you posted with each of the band members were all playing interactively from each other's stream, and then you were able to do that acoustic cover, which I thought was a fantastic idea. Obviously, ideas like that are very handy when there's a band involved in that. But what made you think of the idea of doing that or releasing it now? Was it something that you'd done specifically for lockdown scenarios, or what was the idea there?
I think it initially arose from the sort of inability for us to jam together on a weekly basis. That's like, that's like our football training. You know, now I
Yeah.
used to be a big sporty person when I was growing up, and I was always accustomed to going to football training on a Sunday, or going to boxing on Tuesday night or something like that.
Yep.
And you know, those wee things are stress relievers when you're
Mhm.
young, and let you sort of get your mind off school and whatever, for that wee period of time during the week. And when I started getting into music, you know, going to band practice once a week was that thing for me.
Yeah.
Was getting a chance to get my mind off things and just play a bit of music, or just sometimes you would go for a 3 hour rehearsal and you barely play anything. You just sit and talk about things, but it is really good just to have that camaraderie.
Mhm.
And I've been doing that, you know, since, you know, constantly, you know, each week, most weeks since it was about, you know, 13, 14. So that sudden brick wall of we don't have, you know, a chance to get together every week now and practice, was really shocking, for all four of us,
Yeah.
because you know we've been together, just us, even for 6 years.
Mhm.
So that was a big change. So we wanted to try and find ways that we could still collaborate, still keep, you know, the motors turning, stay creative, as you said, during the lockdown period. And the first thing I thought of was, like, I had a load of wee interfaces, you know, from over the years lying
Yeah.
about the house, and wee audio recorders. So I was like, maybe we could, I could hand them out to users, you know, and uh, we could all sort of remotely record all of our new tracks and stuff.
Yeah.
And or maybe we could set up like a Zoom call, and we can try and jam. And we tried that. It didn't work. It was
Yeah.
atrocious, but it was good fun anyway. The latency was just ridiculous.
Yeah, we tried to do a DJ set, Alan and I, where he would play a track and then I would play a track into it, back and forward. No.
It's just that it's too much. There is a few things that we're still thinking of trying, a few really low latency ones. Online, there's a few options that offer that, and we're thinking of giving that a go. But our first attempt was atrocious, so we says, right, maybe try this recording thing. And then Paddy actually came up with the idea. He says, you know, everybody's doing these live videos of them playing their songs acoustic, or you know, like they're doing live streams on Facebook and that, and says we could try and do that, but the full band, you know, and that could be a tester for us to do the sort of remote recording thing. So that's really where it started out. So just said, Sean, if you could do a sort of guide track for the rest of us to go on to, and we just says, I'm recorded as well, so as you know, maybe we'll have something to put out afterwards. And when we started to do it, just coincidentally, we got approached by a girl called Kat from the band No Matter, who's putting together a compilation album for charity called NI Unplugged.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's to reach out to musicians who are doing similar projects to that at the minute, and to try and put all these home recorded acoustic songs of people's own recordings and then their own songs together into a compilation CD to raise money for help musicians who are, as you know, giving money to struggling musicians at the moment. So that just happened really coincidentally for us. So it gave us an extra push to actually make it something proper than just a test of our equipment. So that's why we've done that. And then it says, oh, and those videos that we're doing, we can put those together, and that can be a wee promo for the CD and stuff like that. But I think we'll let it get a wee bit too complicated. There was a lot of heated debates over how much branding we should be shown in the background, and then the different cuts of the shots. And I was like, this was meant to be a test of equipment, you know. So, but it was really fun anyway to make, and it gave us a chance to sort of fill that void. It's been something that we've been working together more than once a week now. We've been every day sending each other stuff back and forward now, and saying, this is what I've added to the track, or this is here's what I've done to the video, and we're having discussions on it. It's not always pleasant discussions, but it's, you know, collaboration nonetheless.
It's progress. That's it. When at the start of lockdown, I was involved in a new collab, and it was funny because when you're writing stuff independently for yourself, you write stuff and you go kind of you get busy 1 minute and then you kind of get bored of it, or you do something else, or you change steady, you just try and keep things interesting for yourself. But when you're working in a collab partnership, you have a very clear objective there, and
Uh-huh.
so guy approached me about wanting to work together, and in the space of about 5 days, I had 4 songs that I could send to him. And it was that
Right.
quick because we discussed for about an hour what kind of direction we're going in, what kind of influence it was, what they want to do. And with that brief, I was able to go down, knock out a few variations, and send them all off him, and expecting him maybe to choose one of the 4 so we can move forward with it. Turned out that he liked them all and he wants to use them all. And then off the back of that, then there's been a few other collabs that I've been involved into where we've maybe done something like this, and then we've been able to work within the workstation. And I've been able to do some stuff. They've been able to hear. They've been able to see my desktop, and we've been able to work together. So it's been a very challenging first few weeks. But now that we're more used to how this scenario works, it's really quite productive. I'm quite pleased with it actually.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was actually going to ask you about later on was about the collab thing, about reaching out, but you've kind of already answered that for me.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've made a complete disaster of, or anything that you've overcome that you're especially proud of during this lockdown time?
Um, I think the biggest thing for me is um committing to something very early, and uh, like for example, we'll take that video that we put out there the other day as an example. I sent over that. Um, it was challenging to say, I'm going to play this all in one take, using this recording.
Yeah.
Um, you have to commit to that because of the video as well, because that's not going to sync up then.
Yeah.
And it ruins the whole illusion of it being, like a live video.
Yeah.
So I found when I started then doing some light mixing of the whole track, when I got everybody's parts in, that I was listening to the acoustic and realized that I got way too much string noise in the recording.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this, I wasn't hearing it in my, I was recording it with headphones on, and I wasn't hearing this frequency of like just a dan 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 of like every time I hit this certain part of this certain chord, it was just ringing out so much. So that was really aggravating me, and I tried EQing it out. I tried everything, tried so many multiple ways of trying to fix it, and it just was sounding atrocious.
Right.
And I was going, what do I do? Do I re-record the guitar? And it is what I ended up doing. Now you'll see in the video, like it is a bit off, but I've tried to really replicate the performance.
Right.
But that took so many takes, to try and make sure that it synced up. But it was just more work because it didn't. I committed to it too early, if you know what I mean.
Right,
and
okay.
I didn't look over and listen to the track too much before sending it off. I should have. I think I was just really wanting to get it over with. I think I was a bit nervous actually as well, because having the camera in front of me while doing the take, so it was like, I just want this done. It's not something I was used to, but because of that, then that led to the guitar thing, taking another couple of hours to make sure that was a really spot on performance of a performance that wasn't even all that accurate or like musical in the first place. I had to try and replicate a sort of subpar, like
to keep it
so that was annoying. That's one thing that I've messed up, is not taking the time really.
Right, but at the same time, some of these things, and the reason why I'm asking you this is because I think the whole point in this section of the talk is how do you make the best of maybe not doing stuff great the first time. And like you, I had a challenging scenario. I was doing a hybrid DJ set with my controllers and this very beautiful box here machine. And normally I would write with that and I would sequence for that and I would be able to use that as a controller. And the idea was I would play the machine software in sync with the controller software, the tractor, and both of these things play together. And I would be able to add in additional synths and be able to add in additional sounds and samples and that. So doing it, the day I had planned the schedule to do it, Beth decided at 5:15 that morning, I'm ready to start the day. So we were up from early, and the only chance I had to do this was maybe 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I had to do it through headphones. So when I did it on the first take was brilliant. I was loving life. But of course, I didn't record that. I was just practicing. When I actually recorded the first one, it was like the energy was dropped low and I was tired and I wasn't focused and I couldn't get the machine to sync up. And I had to get up early the next day and do it again. Because all these things are trial and error, especially when you're maybe doing something that's outside your comfort zone for the first time. And especially when it's being recorded and you know it's going to be broadcast, not unlike this. So when I recorded it the next day, anyway, things were the sunshine was out, my energy level was up. It didn't seem as stressful. I still wasn't necessarily happy with how the timing worked between the sequencer on that and how the timing worked on the DJ software. And there was no opportunity to nudge that. You know the way on the CDJs you can push it forward or back to line it up again. So I had to kind of work this out as I was doing it. But in the end, it was one of them things where it's a live set and you have to let it go because I didn't have any other time to redo it. And it already kind of spent my enthusiasm in doing it from those early takes. And even though the mix that went out was maybe not as perfect as it could have been, it was enough to evidence what I had done, and it would certainly change how I would do it next time. So it was a win in itself just to have done it, if that makes sense. But there's always that nervousness of it isn't going to be perfect and I'm letting it go out. Is it not going to kind of damage my reputation? 9 times out of 10, it's more important to get it out and then do it than worry about not putting it out. And I find that it's the same about music too and about tracks as well. I was talking to Bobby Analog yesterday. He was the fellow I was on the phone to for an hour. And we were having a chat about, I had missed the Bandcamp thing because I have, as well as the DJ thing, I have a kind of ambient hip hop weird thing, headphones and hoods that I was going to put out. But I kind of got a bit, kind of lost direction with it, lost a bit of the plot of where I was going. We were planning to move house, then lockdown happened, and all these other things got in the way, and I didn't get the tracks finished in time. And Bobby has pointed out to me that Bandcamp are doing that waiving of their fees for every Friday for the next 2 months too, maybe 3 months actually. So just off the back of that, I was thinking, well, there's an accountable deadline. Now, I can get 2 EPs finished in that time. The songs are written. It's just a matter of finishing them and mastering them. So, whether I master them or not is neither here nor there, but they can get finished and get released on that date. So there's a lot of, even just coming from them conversations, there's a lot of stuff that, kind of sets you up and gives you a new thing to focus on, a new target to move towards to just keep the momentum going. So I've overcome the nerves of doing that, and it wasn't quite the disaster that I feared it might have been. So that was a win, and that was, of course, for the DJs Unite page, which is raising money for the NHS. That was a very worthwhile project. And of course, you have in the scenarios, you have to think, well, it's bigger than me. It's not necessarily my ego at stake here. I'm contributing to something bigger. But
I think. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the amount of people who came together, the amount of people who put effort in and learned how to stream and learned how to video stream and had constructed sets, and that was 6 weeks those guys organised those streams for, and it was absolutely outstanding. I was just going to give them some credit. So big shout out to Woody and Alan and Anto and all the fellas who are involved in making that happen.
Big time, yeah. It's projects like that, that show how tight-knit the sort of music community is here, really, and how willing everyone is, even though musicians are probably one of the the sectors that have been hit the hardest by losing out on performances and stuff like that, and but they're still willing to to give back and to try and put these projects together, which is really amazing to see. And I suppose the lessons coming from that we chat is of course, I was saying about not committing to something too early, and make sure you're that you're happy with something before you move on and overcommit to it. But by the same token, don't It's sort of a yin and yang thing, you know. Um, don't overcommit too soon, but at the same time, don't let something that's bugging you get in the way of progress and
Yeah,
just putting something out. Um, if you're dwelling on something for too long, it's never gonna see the light of day. And something is better than nothing at the end of the day.
100%. Um, you're absolutely right. It's the idea of being brave enough to put it out there and to take the criticism if the criticism comes. I seen a great quote by Idris Elba one time. Idris Elba, of course, is not really an actor but a DJ. But a lot of people get them stuck because he's maybe not, what's the word? Maybe he's interested in DJing, but he's not as practiced because he's busy being an actor. But the greatest quote I ever heard from him was saying, the difference between me and you is I'm not afraid to fail in public. That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. Just having the balls to just go, I'm going to do it anyway, and we'll see how it works out. Because, I mean, no matter what you do, there's always going to be people who are going to give you some flack, and there's always going to be people who think they're just surprised you've done it, so they think it's brilliant. And then there'll be people who love it, and then people who secretly hate it. So it doesn't really matter. You can't control people's reactions. And I heard a great quote from Pharrell one time too, and he was saying, you're not responsible for your own success anyway. It's the people who make you a success. So the idea there being you could put out your best work and nobody like it, or you could put out your worst work and everyone like it. You really don't know how the reaction to that's going to be. So perfectionism only stops your progress. I think that's the big thing. So speaking of things that inspire us, what's been inspiring you lately, Sean?
Oh, that's a tough question. I suppose what's been pretty inspiring is a sense of community.
Yeah.
I even look out at my street. I've only moved into a new sort of house in the last year or so, and since last August, I haven't had the chance really to engage with many of my neighbours. And we had a whole big idea at Christmas. We would put our numbers in our Christmas cards, and then we would start up a WhatsApp group and stuff. Never came around to doing it, and we're sort of a bit timid to even talk to anyone and stuff. But ever since lockdown, I think there's been a few occasions where whether it was one of the NHS clubs or there was like a mini revolution in this street the other day to get some of the houses fixed because there was birds' nests getting in. But but the street came together, and we have started a wee WhatsApp group now, and we're all chatting now, and it's and that's just a sort of small example of how I've been seeing a lot of communities come together and sort of work together. I've been seeing a lot online about food banks especially in North Belfast here, and all over the place. People are just sort of working together and communicating with each other a lot more effectively, and that's been really inspiring. Even within my own work and stuff as well. I'm speaking to people who I would usually see once a year. From regional offices and stuff. I'm seeing them bi-weekly, or once a week. So it's really encouraging.
It's lovely. As I was saying earlier on, my morning walks around the park, and you do see teams of people, maybe people out with their family, and it's like you wouldn't have seen it before. You'd have seen gangs of people in the park, and you'd have seen people out there together, but it wouldn't have been families necessarily. It would have been teams of friends. And it's very lovely to walk around, whether it be in the evening or in the morning or the afternoon, and see families out all playing together, and just no one else near them. The adults and the kids just having the crack together, and it's a very lovely, encouraging thing to see. And it's the same in our street. There's a lot more kind of communication, and for anyone who's a bit elderly, there's people out walking their dogs for them, and there's people going get shopping for them, and there's a lovely sense of well, we're all in this together. Let's make the best of it. Which I suppose is one of my tips for the whole lockdown thing, and it's collabing, it's getting out, it's getting involved, it's asking a question, it's reaching out to someone. I think what the video conferencing and video calls and that are listed to do is when everybody was kind of used to the idea of being online and sending each other emails and getting in contact with anyone, and anyone's available on Twitter, you can actually now have a genuine sit down conversation with a person. And it's not weird anymore because it's the new normal. So
Yeah.
it's a fantastic way to reach out and even just sit down and have a proper meeting with someone to see if, well, can we work together? Is there creative similarities? Can we skill share? Or, can we work together? It's a very exciting venture for that. Um,
Yeah. I think in terms of that, what this is really helped with as well in terms of skills is those who were um, slightly less tech literate
yep.
um, before have had the opportunity to not feel outcast,
Mm-hmm.
by all of this. And it's in all sorts of different walks of life that, people who might have felt a bit timid towards learning how to do video conferencing even,
Mm-hmm.
or um, in music terms, musicians who didn't feel comfortable recording their own material or, you know, doing all this remote recording. It has sort
Mm-hmm.
of pushed them to learn those skills.
Yep.
And because they know that so many others are in the same boat, they don't feel like they're, you know, below anyone because they know that other people are still learning skills as well. So, and this has given them a good opportunity to learn all of that. I take my own band as an example of that. Here and
Mm-hmm.
I, all home recording wizards at this stage.
Well, that's the very thing too, and I think that's where the Amp Studio podcast came out of that same scenario where we would have regularly, maybe weekly or bi-weekly, at least bumped into each other at one point. Whether
Yeah.
you're in the studio recording, whether I'm in the studio recording, or whether it's practice space, or whether it's technical questions, or whether I'm ringing you up to asking you how you solve the problem, there was always that kind of professional conversation, that skill share that was going on. In lockdown, that's been obviously the opportunity for that to be completely removed. So this is a great opportunity for us to catch up too. But I was speaking
Mm-hmm.
with another friend, Craig Parker, and he was suggesting I would love to hear that conversation. That would be something that, as a person who's interested in that, that would make good listening. So I think it was actually off the back of his conversation that it prompted me to think, well, why don't we kind of reignite the AMPS podcast and do this from a technical point of view and a thing that's interesting us. One of the things that's been inspiring me recently is, David Burton from the Talking Heads. You know of,
Yes.
obviously, I don't expect you to
Yeah.
know him personally. He has a book out called How Music Works. It's not a new
Right.
release, mind you. Barry Connolly had turned me on to it a wee while ago. The book's quite big, mind you. And he got a copy of it, and I was having a kind of a brief scan on it one night when I was visiting around before lockdown. But then I got a prompt from Audible saying you get a free audio book on us, and I was thinking I'm gonna get a David Byrne book and see what the crack with it is. And I've been listening to it out from my morning walks, and it's absolutely fantastic. What's really interesting is how he he tells you the whole backstory about how the band came together, and then the culture of living through being young and being in a band. But then about where he gets the inspiration for stage shows and how he puts it together, and how he kind of references theatre shows a lot for what happens on stage, and how he as well he's seen the technology change a whole lot from the stuff he was doing in the 70s right through to working with Eno on computers, and then through to the Express 2 thing in the 2000s. So he's been across a variety of genres, and it's lovely just to hear his insight and his take on that, because not only does he talk about recording studios, but he talks about world music and influence and working with other people and collaborating and being totally okay with the idea that you only have a limited skill set. It's not your job to do everything. It's your job to find people who are good at doing things and work together with them. And it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a fantastic read, or in my case, listen. So if you get the opportunity to listen to that, check that out. It's about 8 hours worth of listening, mind you, maybe more, but it's fantastic listening.
I find Audible has been amazing the last couple of
Right?
weeks. See, being able to mow the grass
Yes.
and listen to a book at the same time, it's a revolution.
Yeah.
Like it's been amazing. I finished that book Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. It's like 15 hours or something,
Right.
and that was just I'd done it over the space of like a month there, but
Yes.
like most of that was doing gardening. I've
Mm-hmm.
never done so much gardening in my
Right.
life. Um, but on the topic of collaboration, like definitely that idea of in terms of me, the way I've been the last couple of weeks, I've been demoing a lot of songs
Yep.
and trying to come up with new ideas. But you often find that your ideas have a limit you can even see it when you're on a current good idea.
Yeah.
You already know that I'm using up my bank.
Right.
Like I'm taking out a lot of deposits, or I'm like
Withdrawals. You're
withdrawing a
taking a lot of
lot.
withdrawals.
Yeah, I'm taking a lot of withdrawals out of my bank here of ideas, and you can see that, you know, that overdraft's coming up. That
Right.
you're not going to have many left in a few days. So, the first thing to do when you can see that wall ahead of you is just to send those ideas on to other people and see how they what they feel about it,
Yeah.
how they would interpret it, and then to encourage them to show their ideas to you.
Yeah.
And that sort of, even one connection like that is can very easily spark up 10 new ones, if you know what I mean.
100%.
And there's no problem with working alone if you feel like you're more productive doing solo sessions and stuff. That's all well and good, but it's just another sort of tool to your belt to have those musical connections and people that you trust and people that you appreciate their style of music and the type of songs they write and what type of songwriters they are.
Yeah, certainly.
And go, they're good with this type of thing. Let's see what they think.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself doing that quite a bit the last few weeks because of, obviously I'm stuck in this room for all this time. Have no other connection other than the internet.
I was thinking that throughout all the times of recorded history, we are probably at the position to be best placed to deal with this kind of pandemic in any other time in history. We have all the technology about us to entertain ourselves, to create, to learn, to develop ourselves, and all the home comforts to stay safe and stay fed. And it's really we're really in a very privileged position in that way. Obviously, not everyone's maybe as comfortable, but in terms of how we can manage this virus and how we can move forward with it and how we can still kind of exist, both building communities and creatively, while maintaining a distance and letting the NHS breathe and letting the planet get back to normal again. But not to get too much of an old hippie anyway. One of the things that we want to address during this podcast is to give out some tech tips. I suppose collabing was going to be my tip about just reaching out and getting involved with someone else. But I think having a brief is probably the tech tip that I'm going to follow on today. Knowing what you want to do before you sit down and do it takes away the noodle. I've done it loads of times. Sit down, see what comes up. Nothing comes up. Leave the workstation feeling disappointed. Carry that disappointment with me until the next time I open the workstation. Start a new project, still feeling disappointed from the old project. Or you sit down, like I was talking about earlier on, if you have a brief or if you have a collab opportunity, or even if you know I'm going to do this, even if it's just I'm going to work out how the song structure works, or I want to just write this bridge section, or have an ambition when you sit down at a workstation, then you leave the workstation with all the triumph of, yes, I've done what I set out to do. Whether it was good or not, it's irrelevant, but you've met your objective. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think we spoke earlier about, the collaborations that we've done in the past few weeks, and I think about that one we're doing at the moment with the NAM Unplugged album. It started off with us wanting to, give it a go, all this recording equipment, and try and see if we can remotely record each other and put a track together. But I think that would have been such a slow process. I think back to, us putting our album together last year. There were so many times where things were just put off week by week because it didn't have to be done.
Yeah.
But the like of someone, coming in and saying, we want to work with you, we have this deadline, we want to do this. It gives you that wee spark just to say, right, okay, I'm going to need to plan out my week so that I get this brief done.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And it gives you that push.
I have right in front of me right here. I don't know how well you can see that. Schedule. Sitting on front of the page every day. Everything needs to be written down in hours. This is what I'm going to be at. This is what I'm going to do. And it's probably the most productive way to get anything done, because you can see it right in front of you at all times. So one of the things that we were going to do was create kind of video content that people can look at quite quickly and see. Do you have a demonstration prepared, or do you want to send me that as a video already done?
I can demo it for you now. In
All
terms
right,
of what I
give
was
us a bit
thinking
of
of doing.
context about the tip, Sean. How did the idea ever come about?
Okay, so I have another friend who's a regular collaborator of mine, Matt Tunner. Yeah, I would play around the bars with and stuff. And uh, Matt is a fabulous songwriter and is in bands himself and would, write on a quite a consistent basis, but with the help usually of, regular sessions with a band, with me, with other collaborators and stuff, and um, would make use of studios and stuff like that, and uh, for all his recordings and stuff. But obviously, with the way things are at the time, a lot of that is limited for him. But wants to keep up the creative side of his work and to keep uh, putting stuff out there, and even just to make sure he's keeping a record of all his songs. And while he's been able to record stuff on his phone and stuff like that, he wanted to sort of have a bit more of a polished product that he can show to his band, to show to other collaborators, just
Yeah.
or even to put up as wee demos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he was chatting to me over the last few weeks about recording on GarageBand. He has an iPad that he's been recording into, and he's got a wee small like interface for that he can plug his mic and his guitar into. But he was having difficulty, playing to click, and that that was going to make it awkward then for sending it on to other people to add their parts, because then it's harder for them to sync up to, the crack of that. And I know a lot of people aren't too comfortable with playing to a click, and even myself sometimes, especially with more somber songs,
Mm-hmm.
I find it's harder, when you're trying to get a bit of emotion into
Yep.
like a guitar
To be that
performance or
robotic,
whatever.
yeah.
It's really jarring. So without a drummer there or whatever to sync up with, what I've been using, if anyone is a user of Logic or of GarageBand, I've been using the drummer tracks, the virtual drummers, and I have to say, like, in the past few weeks, I haven't really made use of them before extensively, because there was a sort of thing in my head that it was just a drum machine, another
Mm-hmm.
drum machine.
Yep.
And I would usually just program drums myself if I was going to do that. But in terms of songwriting and for just demo recordings and stuff, it is an amazing um, tool to use, and it helps with both that thing of not wanting to use a click, because you can actually just play along with what feels like just another musician, who'll play along with you, or will play in time and you'll be following along in time. But also just gives you that, sense of rhythm, and um, and we'll add a bit of percussion to the track, which you can decide to leave in or take out later on. So if I screen share with you now, I'll show how that's set up. Hi folks, so for this part of the video, we are going to be doing a wee quick instructional demo, and it's around click tracks and alternatives, more precisely to click tracks, because a lot of my friends have been doing home recording projects in lockdown at the minute, and maybe it's been their first time trying out DIY recordings, their first time setting up a home studio, or maybe they've done it before but they're still just getting into it. And a thing that I've noticed a lot of people have been struggling with is getting used to click tracks, because maybe in previous recordings they've been playing along the guide tracks in the studio, or they've tracked their stuff live with a band. But getting used to a click track is a whole different skill in itself, and they're looking sort of like a quick fix on how they can get around having to play with a click and do something that they're a bit more used to. And I have been pointing towards using drum loops
and more in particular the virtual drummer on Logic and GarageBand. I think it's a fantastic tool, and I use it with a lot of clients as well, who have the same problem in the studio around using clicks. So the way this works is that, obviously it will be in time with whatever tempo you set, and like all drum loops will be, but also this will actually change the drum pattern based on the sections of your song and feel a bit more dynamic. There's actually also a feature that will feed off your playing and play along to your recording rather than you playing against it. So it's quite useful, but we're not going to be talking about that in this video. So the first thing you want to do is set the global tempo for the track that you're recording. You can do that by changing the tempo up here and listening to the click. I know that's counterintuitive to this video. If you can play along to the click, then why are you watching this? But I find often you can play. Usually the case is that you can start off playing with the click and it's fine, but you meander off halfway through the song or a few bars in. So that's what this video is really for. But we can use the click to find the global tempo of the song. So if you just scroll up and down this, I'm going to be changing my project myself there by doing that, but if you can scroll up and down between that and find what tempo you can play your song at comfortably, then that's going to be the tempo of your track. Set that, and then this one is for anyone who has already got a structure for their track. I know a lot of people are going to be starting up projects that they are just jamming over and don't necessarily know the whole outline of the track, and that's fine. But if you do know the general outline of your song, I recommend using the arrangement feature here. This might not come up automatically for people in their projects, and if it is hidden, this wee button here will show all your global tracks. That's your arrangement, your marker, your key signature, and your tempo. So we want to look at the arrangement button here. The section, I've laid mine out as you can see here, but when you open this up it will be empty, and when you hit plus it will give you an intro, then it'll automatically give you a verse and then a chorus and then a bridge. But you can change all of these and for whatever section is coming up next and lay out your whole structure. Then if it isn't an intro, verse, chorus, bridge, or outro, you can also write in it understands language like pre-chorus or solo or instrumental and stuff like that. So that's going to be important for us later on, because when we set up the drummer track, which we can see here, when you add in new sections that you see here, this one just says drummer, because if you look at our structure here, there isn't a section laid out here, while the rest are all called verse or chorus or bridge. Well, this one isn't, but I don't know why. But this one, because it doesn't have a section above it, it'll just play the default one. But if we add in a bridge there, then it'll add in a bridge section for us. That will be like a typical drum pattern for a bridge. So like the way we have more cymbals and more energy in a chorus, the same for a bridge. It might have more ride cymbal, or it might go to a slower sort of speed. It might be a bit more somber. An outro might have more toms or something. It might be more energetic. So it's different depending on what way you set it, and I'm going to show you how you set all those parameters now. So if we go into our library, first off, when we create the drummer track, we can choose from all the different styles and genres here. So I've gone for a punk rock because that's the type of style of this wee quick project that I threw together earlier. But if it's more of a pop songwriter or a trap type of sound, that's the type of patterns that we'll get if we choose that type of drummer. We can choose from a lot of different drum kits here. If the drummer that you've picked doesn't sound too great to your ears, you can scroll through those as well. If we head over to our editor here as well, you'll see that the preset that we've picked here is Mudslinger, and Mudslinger is a very complex and a 75% loud track, but we can, listen to that, and if we thought that pattern was maybe a bit too boisterous, a bit too loud, we could take that down. We could make it a bit more easier sounding, and the same goes for the verse. That'll be a different, I've set a custom one for that. That's because I've probably chose one of the presets and just changed the parameters there. I've maybe taken the hi-hat down a bit, and or maybe I made more focus on the hi-hat and less focus on the kick and snare. But there's so many different parameters you can set there. But as we hear, if we solo the drummer track, you'll hear that there's a big change between this intro and when the verse kicks in. It's a completely different pattern. And then if we go forward a bit to the chorus, you can hear that's a different beat altogether. And this pattern, as I mentioned, has more cymbals, is a bit louder, a bit more energy in it. Then when we go back down to the verse, it's a lot more somber again, as I said. So and most of that was all automatically added in by the drummer track because of this structure that we have up here. So that's what I mean by it being very handy with a few different clicks, and by setting a few different parameters, then you can fine tune that. But if you want to do a quick project and have something to play along with, there's nothing better than having that drummer track, especially if you're not too versed on programming drums yourself. Having that behind you will be much easier to play along with, especially with the difference in dynamics going from the verses to the choruses as well. It'll feel like playing along the drummer in real life. So off that, I put in a picked bass and 2 guitar tracks off that I tracked. Now, excuse the sound of these, because I probably should have played the click with these, because it probably don't sound too in time, but I was able to play with this rather than have the click on. So let's hear what that sounds like. Yeah, so as you can hear, a lot of the parts are all mostly in time with each other, and I was able to record that track without using a click, and this would be perfect as well, because now I know this whole track is in 120 BPM, so I could send this over to the other members of my band, and they could insert my stems for this track into their own session and add layers on top of that. So that's it, folks. Hope that was informative for you, and I hope that helps anyone who is struggling playing along with a click track. I'll see you next time.
We've reached the end of episode 1. Thanks for staying with us to the end. If you've taken value from this podcast, please like and share with others you think it would help. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and smash the like button. And if you're listening to the audio on a podcast, please leave us a review on your podcast provider. You can email your music production questions to craig@ampsstudio.com. That's CRAIG at AMPSstudio.com, or leave a comment where this is shared. Until next time, this is the AMP Studio Podcast.